Formerly, it was not a very nice looking lot.
There were, sort of 3 or 4 mattresses.
A lot of garbage.
And not really much else here, to be quite honest.
It isn't a plot of land that has great historical significance in the story of Saskatoon. This parcel that straddles the core neighborhoods of Pleasant Hill and Riversdale was for many years in the middle of the 20th century an industrial site. In recent decades, it had been, well, nothing.
At this point in time, it's looking not too bad, and it's just going to get better from here.
And I think it's been an incredible transformation.
A partnership between the City of Saskatoon, Chep Good Food, and interested organizations has led to a rebirth of sorts, as the plot is being converted into park space. But the process isn't an easy or a quick one. Trying to grow anything where an oil facility once stood presents some unique challenges.
I've never worked on an industrial site before, so that had its own challenges, as we soon realized when you stuck a shovel through this topsoil and we hit an asphalt layer 6 inches below. A layer of topsoil had been put over top of the asphalt, so we're talking about a lot of soil compaction as one of our big issues, and then the very minimal amount of topsoil, the layer of topsoil, wasn't adequate to grow trees.
And it was quite a challenge, I think, for us to sort of start realizing the history of what this site has actually been used for. In order to get the site prepared for this tree planting, we did actually have to have an excavator come in and remove that layer of asphalt, as well as some of the soil. And so we're quite excited even just to let the land breathe a little bit by removing that layer.
The vision for the park included a place to grow food for people who live in the neighborhood, creating healthy alternatives in an area of the city where they are often sorely lacking. While the soil quality presented a challenge, a solution was found.
This is a brownfield. So a brownfield meaning that it's contaminated soil. You cannot grow food directly into the ground, and hence why we grow in containers.
So everything on this table we have grew right from the garden. Yeah, so pickle?
They were made last week.
These were made by interns last week.
We're kind of reclaiming what it means to be a brownfield, because I think that typically brownfields are ignored spaces, and and I think that there has been a real loss of life in those areas.
There's been kids that have come through and said, cucumbers, and gotten very excited about the vegetables and the things we're growing. And I mean, that's really what it's all about, is the food literacy that we can increase through gardening. Hopefully it'll mean community can be proud of this site and be involved in what we're doing.
But it isn't just these neighbors who are getting involved in the as yet unnamed park. One that pops by a few times a day is also contributing. The proximity of active train tracks to the land also allowed another partner to come on board.
CN launched an exciting program in 2012 called Eco Connections from the ground up. And in those 7 years, we partnered with Tree Canada, where we work to green municipalities, working with communities along our line to promote food security, ecological principles of sustainability.
With the CN grant, we have the opportunity to beautify the site, to add, native species of trees, some bushes, make it much more aesthetically pleasing, and so that the community actually sees it as a worthwhile place.
I know you want the shade from the tree to
Sorry about the sunshine.
A ceremonial tree planting took place during the initial dedication ceremony. But the real work began a few weeks later, as the leaves of the elder statesmen began to change, while their young counterparts found a new home.
I want you to take your hands, you're going to get a bit dirty, and you just loosen up these roots all the way around.
Tree Canada provided both the trees and the expertise, as community advisor Kelvin Kelly oversaw this group of volunteers.
And that just holds the water in place.
He estimates he has overseen the planting of 1.5 million trees during his careers in forestry, and says he loves teaching these lessons as a different way of planting a seed.
Okay, so now you just fill in with dirt all the way around. It's very rewarding. I still have the passion for that, and I like to see the end result, so that's why I remain involved.
These ones are going to turn really nice and red in the fall, so that's really pretty.
The trees chosen for the park were selected both for their ability to grow in less than ideal conditions and to complement the existing ones.
We tried to retain that native aspect, so I chose species that would provide shade, and then if you look towards that far end, that's where our hedgerow lilacs will go, and the objective there is to create some buffer. So we're not necessarily looking at shade there, but more of a buffer to buffer this site from the heavy traffic use area on the street. They'll grow about 6 feet tall, and they'll fill in through suckering, so we should have a really nice hedge here in the future.
The garden project, which is operated through CHEP's Esquis program, allowing young people to grow and sell the produce from here, continues to evolve.
Yeah, they're really good.
Oh, yeah.
An early plan to partner with the University of Saskatchewan to introduce a remediation fungi that would have made the soil usable for food growth has at least temporarily been abandoned. But those involved still hope this land will one day produce vegetables.
Sort of uncertain as to what that will look like, but yeah, it would be amazing to see at some point or another that we could kind of reclaim this land and grow food in it once more, but time will tell, I guess.
The park has been designed to be not just a place with an ecological conscience, but also a social one. And the cultural significance should grow along with these trees.
So we're just putting some tobacco down, Calvin, for each.
Something that was really important to us was the incorporation of the medicine wheel as the center point of the garden. We have a picnic table which was painted and donated by a previous ASCII intern's grandparent, and so we definitely used that as sort of the focal point. We made sure that our main pathways were sort of north, south, east, west, and then did ceremonial plantings in the 4 directions of sage and tobacco, and then some other native flowers as well.
While the site looks dramatically different than it did a half-century, or even just 1 year ago, the transformation is far from complete. The park will continue to evolve through the changing seasons over the next several decades.
We've had lots of positive comments, just even people walking by and saying, hey, great garden, looks awesome, that kind of thing. I think it's, you know, there is a lot of foot traffic through this area, so I think it's even just been really nice for people to have a space to sit. We've got picnic tables.
Trees take a long time to establish, and once they do, they'll put on 2 or 3 feet a year kind of thing. Once they're established, trees will be flourishing here for sure.
I would say that by 10 years' time, we should have a pretty well-established community garden, ASCII gardens. Some of the trees should definitely be, you know, well-established at that point.
We're also really looking forward to having a bit of shade eventually for our gardeners. It's been a little bit hot out here in the summer without any shade cover, so that's certainly going to be a benefit for us.
20 years from now, with the trees they're going to plant here, this will be just a beautiful forested park with shade and trails and sitting areas for the whole community to use.
It's a place for the community to walk through and feel pretty happy about.
Good, now that's perfect.